We have described up to 7th cranial nerve. Okay. So today we will discuss 9th, 11th and 12th cranial nerve. 9th is glossopharyngeal nerve, 11th is spinal accessory and 12th is hypoglossal nerve. So first we will discuss the 9th cranial nerve, that is glossopharyngeal nerve. It is a mixed nerve containing both the sensory and the motor fibers, and these are the functional components. 5 functional components are there, both the afferent and efferent fibers are there. Okay, so these components are important for your theory. Okay, list of the different nuclei and their components. So first is spatial visceral efferent fiber. Spatial visceral efferent fiber, they arise from the nucleus ambiguous and they supply the stylopharyngeus muscle, which is derived from the third pharyngeal arch. Okay. Next is general visceral efferent fiber, which arise from inferior salivatory nucleus, and these are preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, relay in the optic ganglion and supplies the parotid gland. Okay. Next is general visceral efferent fiber. They carry the general sensations from the pharynx, palate and posterior 1/3 of the tongue, tonsil, carotid body and carotid sinus. And these sensations are carried to the nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay. Next is spatial visceral afferent fibers. They carry taste sensation from the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, including the circumvallate papilla, and they carry the sensation to the nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay, same nucleus. Next is the general somatic afferent fiber. They carry the general sensation from the middle ear, proprioceptive sensation from the stylopharyngeus, and these sensations are carried to the nucleus of the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. So this is the relaying nucleus. Those bench, fourth bench from there. কি কথা বলে যাচ্ছিস তখন থেকে দেখছি, উঠে আয় তো, উঠে সামনে আয়, fourth bench. Okay, so last component is general somatic afferent fibers. They carry general sensation from the middle ear and proprioceptive sensation from the stylopharyngeus, and this sensation is carried to the nucleus of the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Okay. So these are the functional components and nuclei. First is spatial visceral efferent. It is nucleus is the nucleus ambiguous and it carries efferents to the stylopharyngeus muscle. Next is general visceral efferent fibers. They are going to inferior salivatory nucleus, carrying parasympathetic fibers for the parotid gland. Next is general visceral afferent fiber. They are going to nucleus tractus solitarius, carrying general sensation from the pharynx, palate, tongue, tonsil, carotid body and sinus. Then next is spatial visceral afferent fibers. Fibers are going to nucleus tractus solitarius for the taste sensation from the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Next is general somatic afferent fiber, nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and they carry general sensation from the middle ear. So these are the different components. Next is the distribution or branches. This glossopharyngeal nerve, it is distributed to the tympanic area, carotid body and sinus, pharynx to the stylopharyngeus muscle, lingual area and the auricular area. All these areas are supplied by this glossopharyngeal nerve. How will you test in case of lesion of this nerve? There will be absence of gag reflex. Gag reflex means sudden contraction of the lower jaw if posterior 1/3 of the tongue or pharynx is touched with some object. Okay, there is no taste sensation at the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, absence of the parotid salivation, and there will be glossopharyngeal neuralgia. Neuralgia means pain in case of compression of this nerve in some area. And there will be referred ear pain in pharyngitis. Next. So these are the components, their nuclei and their function. Okay, spatial visceral efferent supply stylopharyngeus muscle. Nuclei is nucleus ambiguous. General visceral efferent passes through the inferior salivatory nucleus and parasympathetic fiber for parotid gland. Next is general visceral afferent. It nucleus is nucleus tractus solitarius, carries general sensation from pharynx, palate, posterior 1/3 of tongue, tonsil, carotid body and sinus. Next is spatial visceral afferent. Also the nucleus is nucleus tractus solitarius, carries taste sensation from posterior 1/3 of tongue including circumvallate papilla. Next is general somatic afferent. Nucleus is nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve and carries a general sensation from middle ear, proprioceptive sensation from the stylopharyngeus. Okay, so this chart is very important for your theory. Okay, different component, their nucleus and their function. Next is ganglia of the glossopharyngeal nerve. Glossopharyngeal nerve has two sensory ganglia, superior smaller ganglia and larger inferior ganglia, and they contain the cell bodies for sensory fibers. Okay. Next is origin of the nerve. This glossopharyngeal nerve arises by 3 to 4 rootlets which are attached to the posterolateral sulcus of the medulla just above the rootlets of the vagus nerve. Here is the attachment of glossopharyngeus, vagus and spinal accessory. Okay, it's posterolateral aspect of the medulla, posterolateral to the olive. Okay. Next, it has an intracranial course and extracranial course. So intracranial course, the rootlets of the glossopharyngeal nerve pass forward and laterally towards the jugular foramen. Okay, 9th, 10th, 11th passes through the jugular foramen. You have seen previously during the cranial fossas. So these rootlets are going towards the jugular foramen. Here they unite to form the single nerve trunk, and just after its formation, it leaves the cranial cavity through a intermediate compartment of the jugular foramen within a separate sheath of dura mater. Okay, so it passes through intermediate compartment of jugular foramen, that you remember, and it has smaller superior ganglion that lies within the jugular foramen and large inferior ganglion that lies in the lower part of jugular foramen. And at the inferior ganglion, the glossopharyngeal nerve bends sharply downward and leaves the skull through the jugular foramen, and this nerve rests on the groove of jugular tubercle of the occipital bone. Okay, so this is intracranial course. Next we are going to extracranial course. The nerve passes downward, forward between the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery, and then it passes between the external and internal carotid arteries deep to the styloid apparatus. And glossopharyngeal nerve winds forward around the lower border and superficial surface of the stylopharyngeus muscle and finally enters the pharynx through the gap between the superior and middle constrictor muscle of the pharynx and divides into two terminal branches. Okay, so this is the extracranial course. Next, see here, these are the two ganglion, superior smaller, inferior larger ganglion, giving multiple branches. This is tympanic branch, auricular branch, carotid branch. Okay, and this is branch to the soft palate, tonsil, lingual branch to stylopharyngeus. Okay, after that it is entering in between the superior and middle constrictor muscle of the pharynx and dividing into two terminal branches. Next, so these are the branches and their distribution. So tympanic branch carries sensation from the mucous membrane of the tympanic cavity, tympanic membrane, mastoid antrum, mastoid air sacs and most of the auditory tube. And the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers of the tympanic branch fibers from inferior salivatory nucleus. They supply the parotid gland through the otic ganglion. Next is carotid branch to the carotid sinus and carotid body. Pharyngeal branch from pharyngeal plexus and carries sensation from mucosa of the pharynx. Muscular branch to the stylopharyngeus muscle of third pharyngeal arch, and this nerve is nerve of the third pharyngeal arch. That's why it will supply the muscle of third pharyngeal arch. Next is tonsillar branches supply the palatine tonsil, soft palate and palatoglossal arch. Lingual branches supply the posterior one-third of tongue, circumpallate papilla and carry both the taste and general sensations. And auricular branches supply the pinna of the ear, the external auditory meatus. The cell bodies of these sensory neurons are located in the superior ganglion of the glossopharyngeal nerve. This is the relay nucleus. Next. So these are the branches and these are the supplying areas. Okay. This is also important. So tympanic branch is sensory supply to mucous membrane of tympanic cavity, tympanic membrane, mastoid antrum, mastoid air cells, most of the auditory tube, preganglionic parasympathetic fibers of parotid gland. Carotid branch to carotid sinus and carotid body. Pharyngeal branch carries sensation from mucosa of the pharynx. Muscular branch to stylopharyngeus. Tonsillar branch to palatine tonsil, soft palate, palatoglossal arch. Lingual branch carries general taste sensation from posterior one-third of tongue and circumpallate papilla. Auricular branch to pinna of the ear, external auditory meatus. Okay, next. How will you test the glossopharyngeal nerve? Clinical testing comes. Okay. So, it is tested clinically by eliciting the gag reflex. What is gag reflex? Normally tickling the posterior wall of the pharynx, soft palate or tonsillar fossa, a reflex contraction of the pharyngeal muscle occurs. Okay, and this is called gag reflex, and it is absent in glossopharyngeal nerve paralysis. And testing taste sensation, it carries taste sensation from posterior one-third of the tongue. So, testing the taste sensation on posterior one-third of the tongue, which is lost in glossopharyngeal nerve paralysis. So, this is how you test the nerve. So, what are the causes of lesion of this glossopharyngeal nerve? It usually occurs along with lesion of vagus nerve. An isolated paralysis is rare and it causes absence of gag reflex, loss of taste sensation and general loss of taste sensation. Okay, loss of taste sensation and general sensation from the posterior one-third of tongue and circumpallate papilla, loss of salivation from the parotid gland and difficulty in swallowing. So all these will be the symptoms. And glossopharyngeal neuralgia is a short, sharp, severe paroxysmal attack of intractable pain in the area of sensory distribution of the glossopharyngeal nerve, that is throat, tongue, ear, and it is precipitated by the swallowing. This pain is precipitated by the swallowing. Next is referred pain in pharyngitis. There may be referred pain in the ear in pharyngitis, as both are supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, so these will be the symptoms of the lesion of glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, so we have completed glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, gag reflex is important in clinical aspect, and other symptoms, if you know the supplying area, you can describe the symptoms. That will be lost. Okay, next is 11th cranial nerve. So 11th cranial nerve is also called accessory nerve, and it consists of two roots. That's why the name is given, spinal accessory. Okay, cranial root and spinal root. Cranial root, which is accessory to the vagus, and it joins the vagus nerve and forms the vagoaccessory complex. Next is spinal root, which has independent course and supplies the sternocleidomastoid and trapezius muscles. These are the functional component. Here two functional components is there. Only efferent fibers, okay. Spatial visceral efferent, general somatic efferent. Spatial visceral efferent, they begins from nucleus ambiguous, and these are motor fibers for the muscles of the soft palate, pharynx and larynx, and they form the cranial root and get distributed through the branches of the vagus nerve, okay. Next is general somatic efferent fiber. They begins from the spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve and which extends in the anterior gray column of the spinal cord from C1 and C5 segments. And these fibers supply the sternocleidomastoid and trapezius muscle. Okay, so these are the different component and they are supplying zone. Next, so spinal accessory nerve is 11th cranial nerve. These are the two roots, cranial root which is accessory to the vagus and spinal root for sternocleidomastoid and trapezius muscle. These are the functional component and nuclei. Spatial visceral efferent component nucleus is nucleus ambiguous for muscles of palate, pharynx and larynx. And general somatic efferent component nucleus is spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve and which supplies sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Next are these are the two roots, spinal root and cranial root. Spinal root will supply sternocleidomastoid and trapezius, and cranial root will supply muscles of pharynx except stylopharyngeus, palate except tensor veli palatini, and larynx except mucous membrane below the vocal cord, okay, which is supplied by okay. So next is clinical integration. How will you test in case of lesion of the spinal accessory? You have to test the sternocleidomastoid. You ask the patient to turn the chin to the opposite side, okay. In case of paralysis, lower motor neuron type of paralysis of this nerve, patient will not be able to turn the chin, okay, to the opposite side. Next is trapezius. Trapezius helps in shrugging of the shoulder. So ask the patient to shrug the shoulder, and if in case of lesion, patient will not be able to shrug the shoulder. And torticollis occur in case of paralysis. Torticollis means ray neck, okay. The muscles become flaccid in the neck. There will be webbing of the neck, ray neck, okay. Next. So these are the different functional components, spatial visceral efferent, general somatic efferent. Nucleus are these, nucleus ambiguous, which is supplying palate, pharynx, larynx, and spinal nucleus of accessory nerve is supplying sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Okay. Next. So cranial, this is the origin of the spinal accessory nerve. Cranial root and spinal root. Cranial root, see here, this one is cranial root, okay, and here is the spinal root is coming from the spinal cord, entering through foramen magnum and joining with the cranial root. Then the spinal accessory is coming out through the jugular foramen. After formation of the main trunk, it comes out through the jugular foramen, okay, and again divides into two branches. One is joining with the vagus nerve and another is going to supply these two muscles, sternocleidomastoid and trapezius, which those branch which is joining with the vagus will supply the muscles of palate, pharynx and larynx, okay. So this is the course of the spinal accessory. So cranial root, see here is the cranial root is arising from nucleus ambiguous, emerges by 4 to 5 rootlets from the posterolateral sulcus of the medulla. You have seen in previous picture, and they join to form a single trunk. And spinal root arises a row of filaments from the upper 5 segments of spinal cord here. And between the ventral and dorsal nerve roots and in the vertebral canal, the filaments unite to form a single trunk which ascend in front of the dorsal root and behind the ligamentum denticulatum. Okay, so this is the course. Next, See here, this is the origin of the spinal accessory. Okay, this is spinal root, and here arises the cranial roots joining to form the spinal accessory, and then it will come out through the jugular foramen. Next, so intracranial course and extracranial course. Intracranial course, cranial root runs laterally, crosses the jugular tubercle to reach the jugular foramen, and in the jugular foramen, the cranial root unites for a short distance with the spinal root, and then the cranial root fuses with the inferior ganglion of vagus nerve and further distributed through the vagus nerve. We have seen in those pictures. Next is spinal root. It enters the cranial cavity through foramen magnum, lying behind the vertebral artery, and in the cranial cavity runs upward and laterally towards the jugular foramen, and here it joins with the cranial root for a short distance and leaves the skull through the intermediate compartment of the jugular foramen. So this is intracranial course. Next is extracranial course. It descends vertically downward and backward behind the internal jugular vein, deep to the parotid gland, styloid apparatus, and posterior belly of the digastric muscle, pierces the deep surface of the sternocleidomastoid, and anastomosis with the fibers from C2 and C3, that is ANSA of Moberg. Okay, and it emerges from the sternocleidomastoid, runs backward and downward in the posterior triangle on the levator scapulae. This relation is important. Okay, it emerges from the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid, runs backward and downward in the posterior triangle on the levator scapulae muscle. Okay, you will see during the posterior triangle dissection this spinal accessory nerve. Okay, over the prevertebral fossa. Prevertebral fossa is forming floor of this fossa, floor of this triangle. Next, it passes deep to the anterior border of trapezius at about 3.5 cm above the clavicle, forms a plexus with C3, C4 nerve fibers deep to the trapezius. So this is the course of extracranial course. Next we are going to distribution. Spinal root supplies the sternocleidomastoid along with C2, C3. Okay, and trapezius along with C3, C4 spinal nerves. So this is supplying area of the spinal root. Next is cranial root. This pink one is the cranial root. Distributes through the vagus nerve. See, it is going along with the vagus nerve. Okay, and giving the pharyngeal branches to supply all the muscles of the soft palate except tensor valli palatini, which is supplied by mandibular nerve. Okay, third branch of the trigeminal mandibular was, and all the muscles of pharynx except the stylopharyngeus. Stylopharyngeus was supplied by the glossopharyngeal, you have read, and recurrent laryngeal nerve to supply all the intrinsic muscles of larynx except the cricothyroid, which is supplied by external laryngeal nerve, which is branch from vagus. Okay. Next. So this is the supplying area. Spinal part supplying sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Cranial root distributes through the vagus, which are pharyngeal branches. Recurrent laryngeal branch. Pharyngeal branch supply all the muscles of pharynx except stylopharyngeus. All the muscles of soft palate except the tensor valli palatini, which is supplied by mandibular nerve, and recurrent laryngeal nerve supplies all the intrinsic muscles of larynx except the cricothyroid, which is supplied by external laryngeal nerve. Also supply mucous membrane of the larynx below the vocal folds. Okay, lower half of the larynx is supplied by this recurrent laryngeal nerve. Okay, next. This is the clinical integration. Paralysis of spinal accessory nerve will lead to paralysis of sternocleidomastoid, inability to turn the chin to the opposite side against resistance. Okay, if you provide resistance like this, patient is not able to turn the chin to this side if paralysis occurred. And paralysis of trapezius muscles, there will be drooping of the shoulder. Patient cannot shrug the shoulders. Okay, so the spinal accessory nerve can be tested clinically for the actions of sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. For trapezius, ask the patient to shrug the shoulder against resistance. And for sternocleidomastoid, ask the patient to turn the chin to the opposite side against resistance. And paralysis of spinal accessory result in paralysis of these two muscles. Patient is unable to turn the chin to the opposite side, and there will be drooping of the shoulder. Also, there will be torticollis or ray neck, irritation of the spinal accessory during biopsy of the cervical lymph nodes may cause torticollis. That is spasmodic contraction of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay. Next. So we have completed spinal accessory nerve. Okay. Next we are going to 12th cranial nerve, that is hypoglossal nerve. Okay, these two are important for your short note. This 11th and 12th. Okay. Whole of the things shortly you have to write down. The course, different functional component, branches, supplying area, all those you have to write shortly. Okay. It can come as a short note or part of long question. And for glossopharyngeal, nucleus is very much important, different functional component and supplying area. So next is hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal is 12th cranial nerve, purely motor and supplies all the muscles of the tongue except the palatoglossus, which is supplied by the cranial part of the accessory nerve. Okay. These are the functional component. Efferent fibers. General somatic efferent fibers, they arise from the hypoglossal nucleus. See here, these are the hypoglossal nucleus. This is section through the medulla. Okay. Then hypoglossal nerve is coming out in between the pyramid and the olive. Pyramid medially, olive laterally. Okay. So general somatic efferent fibers arise from the hypoglossal nucleus, supply all the intrinsic and extrinsic muscles of the tongue except palatoglossus. And general somatic efferent fibers, they carry proprioceptive fibers from the muscles of tongue to the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve. And this hypoglossal nucleus is about 2 centimeter long, located in the medulla, in the floor of fourth ventricle, deep to the hypoglossal triangle. Okay, you have seen hypoglossal triangle during floor of the fourth ventricle. Next is origin of the hypoglossal nerve. It arises by 10 to 15 rootlets on the ventral aspect of the medulla from the anterolateral sulcus between pyramid and olive here. Between pyramid and olive, from the anterolateral sulcus it is arising. The rootlets. Next. Okay, so hypoglossal nerve has these functional components. And the C1 fibers, you have seen during the ansa cervicalis, the C1 fibers join the hypoglossal nerve and forming the descendants hypoglossal. Okay, so functional component are these two: general somatic efferent, hypoglossal nucleus for muscles of the tongue except the palatoglossus, and general somatic efferent nucleus is mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve for proprioceptive sensation from the muscles of the tongue. And from the hypoglossal nerve, it supplies all the muscles of tongue except the palatoglossus. And the C1 fibers, it is giving meningeal branch to the thyrohyoid to geniohyoid and forming the descendants hypoglossal. Okay. Next, how will you test? Clinical testing. Ask the patient to protrude the tongue. Okay, to take out the tongue, and in case of paralysis of hypoglossal nerve, tongue deviates to the side of the paralysis. Okay. Next. So these are the two functional components. Basal visceral efferent nucleus is hypoglossal nucleus. Function: all the intrinsic extrinsic muscles of the tongue are supplied except palatoglossus. And general somatic afferent component nucleus is mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, carries proprioceptive fibers from the muscles of the tongue. Okay, so main muscle of the tongue is hypoglossal nerve. Okay, next. Next, it has intracranial course and extracranial course. Okay, see here from the hypoglossal nucleus, It is coming out from the medulla in between pyramid and olive. Okay, and then it is joining with the meningia. C1 root is joining with it, supplying these muscles. Okay, styloglossus, hyoglossus, genioglossus, intrinsic muscles of the tongue. Okay, and through this C1 fiber, it is supplying this geniohyoid, thyrohyoid, and forming the descendants hypoglossal, which is part of the ansa cervicalis. Okay. So the rootlets of first the intracranial pores. The rootlets of hypoglossal nerve run laterally behind the vertebral artery, joined to form two roots of or bundles. And these two bundles pass through the hypoglossal canal, and these two roots unite in the hypoglossal canal before they leave the skull. Okay, you have seen hypoglossal canal just above the occipital condyles. Okay, this is the route through which the hypoglossal nerve coming out from the cranial cavity. After that, extracranial course starts. The hypoglossal nerve exits the skull through the hypoglossal or anterior condylar canal, and here it lies deep to the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery. And then the nerve descends between the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery, and the lower border of posterior belly of digastric, it turns forward and crosses the internal and external carotid arteries laterally, and it further runs forward and crosses the loop of lingual artery, hyoglossus and genioglossus muscles. Next, here the nerve passes deep to the submandibular gland and mylohyoid muscle, and finally the nerve enters the tongue, divides into terminal branches. Okay. Next, these are the branches and supplying areas. So branches to supply all the intrinsic, extrinsic muscles of tongue except palatoglossus, which is supplied by cranial part of accessory nerve. And through the vagus nerve, branches of hypoglossal nerve containing C1 fiber. This C1 fibers, the hypoglossal nerve is joined by these fibers of C1 spinal nerve, and these fibers give these following branches. Okay, meningeal branch, it enters the cranial cavity through the hypoglossal canal, supply the dura mater of posterior cranial fossa. Next is descendant hypoglossi, or the upper root of the ansa cervicalis, superior root of the ansa cervicalis. Okay, it arises from the hypoglossal nerve in front of the internal carotid artery, descends in the anterior wall of the carotid sheath, location of ansa, and joined to the inferior root of ansa cervicalis at the level of cricoid cartilage. Okay. Next is nerve to thyrohyoid. It crosses the greater cornu of hyoid bone, supplied the thyrohyoid muscle. And nerve to geniohyoid, it arises above the hyoid bone, supplied the geniohyoid muscle. Okay, so these are the supplying area of these branches, C1 root. Okay, see the course. You have seen the hypoglossal nerve during the anterior triangle dissection. Okay, so see here, from here through the hypoglossal canal, it is coming out. Here two roots are joining, and 10 to 15 rootlets are arising. Okay, and C1 fibers are also joining with it, and this is meningeal branch, which is again, it has a recurrent course, again entering through hypoglossal canal, supplying the meninges, dura mater of the posterior cranial fossa. And here it is supplying the different muscles of the, okay, genioglossus, geniohyoid, nerve to geniohyoid, thyrohyoid, all these are branches from C1, and these are the branches from the hypoglossal nerve and forming the descendants hypoglossi. Okay, so this is the course of the hypoglossal nerve. Next. So branch from hypoglossal nerve proper, muscular branches to all the extrinsic and intrinsic muscles of tongue except palatoglossus, which was supplied by spinal accessory. Next is branches of hypoglossal nerve containing C1 fibers. These are meningeal branches. Supplied dura mater of posterior cranial fossa. Descendants hypoglossi forms the upper root of ansa cervicalis. Nerve to thyrohyoid muscle. Nerve to geniohyoid, supplying geniohyoid muscle. Okay. Next is clinical testing. Okay, see, Injury, these are the hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nucleus coming out in between pyramid and olive. Okay, in this side, the nerve lesion occurring of the hypoglossal nerve, and see if you ask the patient to protrude the tongue will deviate to the affected side. Okay, because the genioglossus will push to the opposite side. Normal side muscles are pushing the tongue to the side of lesion. Lower motor neuron type of paralysis of muscles of tongue. So during protrusion of tongue, deviation of tongue to the affected side because of action of genioglossus of the opposite side. Okay. So ask the patient to protrude the tongue. Normally the tongue protrude forward in the midline, and if the hypoglossal nerve of one side is paralyzed, the tongue deviates to the side of paralysis due to action of contralateral genioglossus muscle. And if both the hypoglossal nerves are paralyzed, patient cannot protrude the tongue. And lesion of hypoglossal nerve are divided into intranuclear and supranuclear lesion. So in intranuclear lesion or injury in the hypoglossal nerve, lesion results in lower motor neuron type of paralysis of the muscles of the tongue on the side of lesion. And on protrusion of tongue, it deviates to the affected side due to the action of genioglossus of the opposite side. And in case of bilateral nerve paralysis, bilateral hypoglossal nerve injury, patient cannot protrude the tongue, and speech and swallowing are also affected in bilateral lesions. Okay, because tongue is main important muscle for and vocal cord. Tongue and vocal cords are important during our speech and swallowing also. So these are also affected in bilateral paralysis. And in case of supranuclear lesion of hypoglossal nerve, it occurs due to damage to the corticonuclear fibers connecting the motor area of cerebrum to the hypoglossal nucleus. Okay, this nucleus is connected to cortex, cerebral cortex, and when those fibers are damaged, this is called supranuclear lesion. Okay, and it results in upper motor neuron type of paralysis. On protrusion, the tongue deviates to the opposite side, and the supranuclear lesion affects the muscle of the opposite side of the tongue. Okay, lower motor neuron type of lesion, same side deviation. In upper motor neuron type of lesion, opposite side deviation. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay, next. Okay, that's all. So you prepare 11th and 12th cranial nerve as a short note. All those parts, origin, course, and different components, supplying areas, all are write down shortly. Okay, and for glossopharyngeal, the nucleus, functional components, and their supplying areas are important. Okay, and gag reflex for glossopharyngeal nerve is very important. Okay, that's all. Any queries? And the clinical aspects. Okay, what will happen in lesion of this nerve? All these are important for your explain why. Okay, or it can come in your long question. The patient is showing this type of symptoms, which nerve is involved. Then you will be asked about the course, origin, and nucleus, all that. Okay, that's why the clinical aspects are important.